New details emerging about what President Trump said in an Oval Office meeting with two Russian officials just hours after he fired FBI Director James Comey. This is a new report, and it uncovers top secret information that the president shared with Russian diplomats. Joining us now is the author of that report, Howard Bloom, contributing editor for Vanity Fair and author of In the Enemy's House. Good to have you, sir.
Nice being here.
So, back in May, this happened, and at the time, it caused some ripples, but it was kind of shut down. It was shut down by the administration, and we moved on. What did we miss?
Well, what we missed really is, first, what Israel had done. Israel had...
And you're bringing up Israel because the substance of it was that the president relayed intelligence that came from the Israelis in a supposed private relationship between the U.S. and Israel to Russians. Go.
Exactly. Israel had done a daring commando raid into Syria. They bugged a house where a Syrian bomber was talking about how to make computers into laptop bombs. He took this intelligence, the Israelis overheard it, and they told the Americans about it. At first, they had reservations about sharing it with the Americans because the Israelis were warned by the CIA not to pass information on to the Trump administration. The Israelis decided...
Well, hold on, because that's interesting. How do you know that?
It's astonishing.
And why did they feel that way?
Israeli officials were flabbergasted. They go to a meeting at CIA headquarters before the inauguration, and they are told after the meeting's over, the CIA officers come up to them and said, you know, you should be careful what you pass on to this administration. We feel the Russians have their hooks into Trump, into the Trump administration, to the National Security Administration. We don't know where it's going to wind up. Israel's first fear was that information that they could give to the United States would be passed on to the Russians and then on to the Iranians.
And now, why are they specifically concerned about the Russians, given that this is about Syria and the dynamic there?
Because the Russians are the allies of the Iranians, and they feel that anything they pass on to Russia will wind up in the Iranians' hands and will be used against Israel. And Israel still decides, in the interest of saving lives, to go on and tell them about these laptop computer bombs. They do this, and the United States puts restrictions on carrying laptops onto planes. Britain does the same. And then in May, the day after, 24 hours after Comey is fired, the president has a meeting with two Russian officials, people who may or may not be the ambassador, the foreign secretary, co-conspirators in any indictment that Robert Mueller makes against this administration. He reveals to them that this operation took place. He does not reveal that Israel was involved. He said it took place in the city in Syria where it happened. And it's astonishing. Here's a president who is railed against Hillary Clinton for passing on classified information. He rails against leakers, and he's telling this to our adversaries.
Was it classified then?
Yes, it is. It wasn't even given to Congress. It was code word information, and it was passed on to the Russians.
Now, the explanation was Trump didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know it was sensitive. What's your reporting?
Well, any explanation of what really happened is conjecture at this point. The search for truth is really the search for better hypotheses. One can hypothesize that Trump did this because that's part of his personality. Knowledge, like wealth, is only good if you flaunt it. So he had to tell the Russians, you know, I'm on the world stage, this is what I know. The other reason might be perhaps that the last thing the president hears, he likes to share with the world. And he had gotten a briefing, presumably before this meeting, about a Russian aircraft that had gone down over the Sinai. 224 people were killed. He tells them, well, we have a way of fixing that. The third reason, and the reason that Robert Mueller is investigating at this moment, is it more pernicious? Is he sharing with information with the Russians? He began the meeting, according to the transcript that was in the New York Times, by saying, I had a Russian problem, but now I got rid of it. He sounded like a mafia don by dismissing it so...
Why do you point out the timing between the Comey dismissal and this relaying of classified information to Russians by the president?
Well, the timing was bizarre in the sense that no American journalists were allowed at the meeting. There
was a Russian journalist.
There was a Russian journalist who took photographs. The only photographs of the meeting were from TASS, not from an American newspaper.
But in terms of him doing this right on the heels of the Comey thing, do you see that as coincidence or you see it as connected?
I see it as coincidence, but the fact that he immediately begins, the president, by discussing the elephant in the room, saying, I got rid of Comey, I had a big Russian problem, now it's solved. That doesn't seem to be the case.
Howard Bloom, digging deep on something that matters to the American people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure
All right.
being here.
There is a lot of news this morning. There's some big headlines. What do you say? Let's get after it.